Welcome to the Leadership Unveiled, the podcast series that explores the minds and journeys of the pioneering leaders and trailblazers shaping up the business world. I'm your host, Neha Jagnani, and today's conversation is one that brings together transformation, people, strategy, and the evolving role of HR in shaping the future of work. Our guest today has built an exceptional career across multiple facets of human resources, driving impactful change across organizations, regions, and cultures. Welcoming Lipika Verma, Vice President Human Resources, Schneider Electric India. Lipika Verma is the VP HR at Schneider Electric in India with close to 3 decades of experience across multiple domains of HR. She has worked extensively across different industries in varied countries, regional and global roles. Lipika is an HR thought leader and a well known speaker and respected for her innovation and transformational HR work, including some in DEI space as well. Beyond her science background and an MBA degree, she has been certified by INSEAD Paris. She continues to create an impact on the HR landscape in India and beyond. Lipika, thank you so much for joining. It's a pleasure having you.
Thank you, Neha. Thanks a ton for having me here as part of the podcast. Thanks again.
Thank you so much. Look forward to this exciting conversation, Lipika. So, to begin with, my first question for you is: you have worked across HR transformation, M&A, total rewards, DEI, well-being, and HR business partnering. So, looking back, which experience has shaped your leadership philosophy the most, and why?
Yeah, absolutely, Neha. I had kind of a very holistic career in HR, panning across different specialized roles, as well as an HR business partnering role, along with M&A experience, DEI, well-being, and talent management as well. But something which is very close to my heart is an HR business partner role, and I'll tell you why. I feel that at the heart of every organization are its people, and I've always seen HRBP as a role within HR that brings that human story to life. And I really started working as an HR business partner when I started my career in 1997. I've done different roles in between. But when I see that, your own work is starting to give its impact in the form of business enhancement, or you see people coming closer to bring out their best potential, I think that is what has been very dear to my heart. And that's the role that I really feel that is the closest to what I would like to do. And when you do these roles, these are the moments that kind of truly test HR, not just as a function, but more as a custodian of people, culture, business continuity. And I feel that the HRBP roles in general are somewhere at the intersection of a business strategy and human experience. Because once these two elements kind of come together, it brings a sustainable success to the organization, and therefore the organization is able to proceed in terms of the ambition that they are able to follow. So I think this is one role which is very close to my heart, because I can see, me and my team trying to do our best in order to bring out the potential within the team. And that helps in driving the business in the direction that we want it to.
Sure.
I hope that helps me.
Absolutely. Beautifully put, Lipika, and so inspiring when you say that as an HR professional, as a custodian of human resources, a business partnering role brings that human touch and also makes people impact people the most to work at the best of their potential, and how it sits at the intersection of human element and business. So thank you so much for beautifully putting forward. My next question, Lipika, is: organizations today are balancing business growth with employee expectations. How do you see the role of HR evolving in creating the balance?
Yeah, I mean, I see HR or human resources team as somewhere as a strategic orchestrator of balance. In today's context, organizations cannot choose between performance and employee experience, right? They have to deliver both. They have to have the performance coming from employees, and they have to deliver a good employee experience as well. And the idea is, how do we really simplify the lives of people for them to bring out their best in the roles that they are doing? So I feel that the HR's role is to really design an ecosystem where performance is at the best, productivity is at the best, and at the same time, we are able to bring in well-being for an employee, because we all know that when people are happy, they perform at the best. And when they perform at the best, that also generates well-being for people, right? So I think our role as an HR leader is to really design that ecosystem where all these things kind of coexist in terms of better performance, productivity, well-being. And we have to somewhere move from a one-size-fits-all kind of policies to something which is more personalized. We are talking about hyper personalization when it comes to employee experiences. We're also, going in the direction of using data to understand what really drives that engagement and performance. Because when employees are engaged and when they are rationally and emotionally connected to the organization, it helps drive better engagement and therefore a better performance for all of them. Now, the other thing I would like to talk about is, how do we enable leaders to lead with empathy while staying outcome driven, right? Because while we are focusing on performance, while we are focusing on productivity, how do we really enable leaders to lead with empathy? And therefore, that is also something which is extremely important for all of us as HR leaders. So ultimately, I feel that HR is kind of becoming like a bridge between business ambition, a bridge between human ambition, both sides. And that is the balance that we need to drive as human resources, future ready organization. So it's that strategic orchestrator of balance between where the business is going, what is the human ambition, and how does this team bring both of them in a very balanced way.
Sure, sure. Thank you so much for putting it together. So it's the takeaway here is that it's to create an ecosystem where people feel the sense of belonging without losing sight of their performance. Because when they get that sense of belonging, when they get their experiences, when they are motivated the most to thrive in any organization. So thank you so much for bringing this. My next question, Deepika, is you have led large scale transformations and implementation projects. What are some common mistakes that organizations make when driving HR transformation, and how can they avoid them?
Yeah, interesting question, Neha. And I think when I look at different transformations that I have personally taken forward, or when I've seen organizations going through that transformational journey, one of the biggest mistakes that organizations actually make in treating HR transformation is like technology or process project, right, rather than taking it forward as a mindset shift. Because when you look at it as a technology transformation, it doesn't work well. And therefore, I've seen a lot of cases where there is an over indexing on tools without really fixing underlying behaviors, right? I have seen that there has been a lack of leadership alignment, lack of role modeling, so to say. And also, I think the employees have not been involved early on as part of the entire journey, or the team has not taken that early buy-in from employees. Also, I feel that if change management has not been driven properly, and if we are not over communicated on any transformation that we're talking about, these are some of the areas which act like pitfalls.
Yeah.
And I strongly feel that in all the various transformations that we have taken forward as a team, or in my leadership journey, I feel that we have to very clearly start with the focus on how is that transformation linked to business outcomes. And we have to really take people in terms of co-creating solutions, or we have to have that early buy-in, so to say, to the point I was making, and invest heavily in change management and storytelling. So I think communication is key. Over communication really helps. Rather than under communicating, you should over communicate whenever there is any kind of a change management or any kind of a big transformation that we are leading. And also, I think the measurement of success should be beyond implementation. It should be around what is the uptake of the plan, what is the adoption, and what is the impact the transformation has been able to create. And therefore, if we keep these things in mind in terms of linking it with the business strategy, believing in it as a leadership team, involving people early on, and also doing a very rigorous change management along with enhanced communication, that really helps drive the transformation journey in a much more meaningful way and in a much more seamless manner, I would say.
Sure, sure. Just to summarize, Lipika, mindset shift is very, very critical rather than just looking at it as a, transformation or technology driven. Then you said it should be linked to the business goal, which is very, very important for early buy-in. Investing in change management and storytelling to ensure that the communication is enhanced and it's crystal clear. And lastly, the measurement should be beyond just the outcome, and you got to look at the transformation journey. So thank you so much for that. My next question, Lipika, is having worked closely with leadership teams through mergers and acquisitions, what have you learned about managing culture during periods of significant crisis or change?
Yeah. I've managed some major merger acquisition programs, and a project led a few. And I've strongly felt that culture is one piece, Neha, which cannot be imposed. It has to be carefully integrated as part of the integration. And many a times, what companies do is during M&As, organizations often focus heavily on financial and operational integration. But culture is what really determines a long-term success or failure, be it any kind of a merger or acquisition or any kind of a divestiture which happens. And therefore, how do we take that piece together? How do we make sure that culture integration happens in a meaningful way is something that we have to think holistically. So I would say that in many of the projects, we should not be assuming that one culture is better than the other, because I think we have to respect those legacies across the two organizations whenever there is a case of merger or acquisition. We really have to identify those real non-negotiable versus the adaptable elements, so to say, because there are certain things in the culture which are absolutely non-negotiable. So that's something that we need to be super clear about. I also feel that communication is key. And I spoke about communication even for your last question, but I feel that communication in a very meaningful way, and early communication, a consistent communication is something that we need to do extremely well. And that's again part of M&A and part of the change management that we drive. And also, lastly, I feel that the leaders who are there, we have to empower leaders as culture carriers and not just as decision makers, because leaders actually kind of enhance that culture or bring more, meat to that culture, so to say. And therefore, I feel that, listening is super important. Whenever you are doing a merger and acquisition, in order to have that culture change or, cultural integration, listening is super important, because culture during change is less about what the company says and more about what the employee experience every day. What is it that they are experiencing? And that is super important from a M&A standpoint. So I feel, it's all around respecting the legacies of the organization, identifying those elements which are absolutely non-negotiable versus, adaptable elements. Something can be adapted, but certain things are just absolutely non-negotiable. Good amount of communication, proactive communication, making sure that the leaders are empowered as leaders, as culture carriers, and then really listen to people. What is it that's going on in their mind? How do we get that feedback back as an HR team? And how do we really action those these are some of the important elements I would talk about. And we had many examples of very, very successful M&A that I at least have done in my career, and I'm super proud of that because, keeping all these things in mind, it has really helped us drive the entire change in a very seamless manner across companies.
Sure. Thank you so much, Lipika. Truly inspiring. I love the way you said culture cannot be imposed, but it needs to be integrated. Also, thank you for summarizing those points. Very fundamental, yet it has the most impact when you're going through M&A and change management, respecting the legacies, communication being the key, and understanding what are the real non-negotiables versus what are the adaptables so you can grow into that change faster. Communication and listening skills, of course, which makes a whole lot of difference when you're going through change and ambiguity as well. So, thank you so much for that. So this brings us to the
Sure.
last question, Lipika, which is the future of work is closely linked to skills, adaptability, and technology. What capabilities do you believe HR leaders should prioritize today to prepare organizations for tomorrow?
I think thanks for that question. And I think there's so much of conversation which is happening on skills today, right? The thing that we hear is that skills is going to be the new currency, and therefore it is super important that the future of organizations or the future of work is centered around being more agile, being more data-driven, human-centered, and of course, skills should be the baseline in terms of working across different processes and programs for an organization. So I strongly feel that there are two, three things which are very important when it comes to skills, adaptability, and technology. I feel through skills, there are a lot of things that can work very well. One is, of course, in terms of based on skills, the entire workforce planning can happen in organizations, right? Because at any point in time, especially in the context of future of work, where we are kind of talking about mission-based teams, when we are talking about facts that employees may not want to be doing the same job every time. You talk about Generation Z, and they are saying that they get bored very fast. So they want to come for a project, they want to work, and then move on to another project. That's going to be the future of work, right? It will not be what we have seen over the last few years. So in that context, how do you actually prepare an organization from a skill point of view so that at any point in time, if an organization wants to build a mission-based team, they have a possibility of getting a few people together based on the skill sets that they have, and then this team comes together, does that mission-based work, and then they dismantle and go and do something else. So that's the kind of future of work we are looking at, and for that, organizations have to prepare themselves by having a full skills taxonomy in place where they know which employee has which kind of a skill set, what is the proficiency level in terms of that skill set, and how do they bring people together to run a project or to do a specific work going forward. And therefore, skills, as we see, has to be then based on technology because, when you are mapping large organizations, you have to have a technology solution to manage all that. So skills is going to be extremely important, and therefore that is where I see directionally a lot of organization working towards, where they are not only mapping skills, they are making sure that the organization agenda is firmed up. On the other side, when you look at it from an employee point of view, an employee wants to have a change in the roles. They have certain dream jobs that they have, and they should be very well clear about the fact that which skills they need to add to their own portfolio in order to do something else in future as part of another role that they're wanting to take. And for that also, they need to be very sure that these are the skills they have at this point in time. And in order to get into another role, which is their dream role, they need to enhance certain other skills, and they need to be aware that these are the skills that they need to add, and therefore they have to upskill and reskill themselves through different ways of 3E learning approach that we talk about. So I think both from an organizational perspective and an employee perspective, it's super important that skills is like the base when it comes to employees' career. Skills is the base when it is looking at it from an employer point of view when it comes to organizational project design, organizational workforce planning, and putting people in different roles and doing their career planning as well. So that's what I would say in terms of skills. But having said that, it is just not very tactical in terms of skills. Two things which are super important is empathy and a tech-enabled world where while we are moving towards a tech-enabled world, human connection and empathy becomes even more critical, so to say. So just to kind of sum up your question, I think skills is super important. It's going to be the new currency. Future of work is all going to revolve around skills. The organizations have to prepare themselves for a skill-based taxonomy with technical solution over there. And at the same time, it's important that employees upskill themselves, reskill themselves in order to take up their career journey forward and take up different roles at different points in time, depending on what is required for that role.
Sure, sure.
Long answer. I hope it was helpful.
Not at all. It was truly thought-provoking. Loved how you put both the perspectives from an organization's lens as well as the employee lens. From an organization, of course, to do that workforce planning, understanding the future of work, creating roles, aligning them with the competencies that are there, the skill sets that people bring on the table. From an employee lens, of course, it is very, very important in today's world to have a clear roadmap. What are the roles? It should be clear. What are the skill sets that I would be needing as an employee should be clear. A clear roadmap to, the role that you're getting into. And last but not the least, empathy and human connection. That is going to remain critical even in the tech-enabled world. So thank you so much for beautifully sharing your insights. And this brings us to the end of the Q&A session, Lipika. It's time to switch gears now and move into this quick rapid fire round. It's going to be quick and it's just an activity to get to know you better, a different side of you. So are you ready?
Sure. Yes, absolutely, Neha.
Great. So to begin with, one word that describes your leadership style.
Authenticity and empathy.
Okay. Coffee or tea?
I'm a tea person, Neha.
Sure. A leadership quality you admire the most?
Passion.
One workplace trend you are excited about?
We spoke about it. I think skill-based organization is something that I'm looking forward to, and I think that's something which is super important, both from organization as well as employees' perspective.
Sure, sure. A book that has influenced you thinking?
Okay, I'm very, very inspired by this book by Indira Nooyi called My Life in Full, Work, Family, and Our Future. So I could just relate to it very well because as you go through your journey in terms of a career with, work, your family, your life, I think it is just so relatable. I love the book. And of course, she's one of my role models.
Hybrid, remote, or office first?
Hybrid with a purpose.
Okay. One skill every HR professionals should develop?
Business acumen, I would say.
All right. A daily habit that keeps you productive?
I think I prioritize the top 3 to 5 things on a daily basis. And that really keeps me productive. And while I do it one day prior for the next day, I also close the day by practicing gratitude. And that is super important for me. Yeah.
Okay, lovely. If not HR, what career would you have chosen?
I've been a physics graduate, very good with this subject. So probably I would have been a physicist or a scientist, um, I would say. So anything to do with physics is absolutely amazing for me.
Sure, lovely. Last one. One piece of advice you would give to your younger self.
I would say that, we need to look at being very curious and grounded. So, curiosity is something which is key at this stage of career also. I stay curious and I should have done it more, I feel, when I was young.
Sure, sure. Thank you so much. This brings us to the end of this podcast, Lipika. The rapid fire was quick and sharp. Thank you for sharing your insights so candidly and your overall perspectives today on transformation, culture, empathy has added immense value to this conversation. And it was my personal privilege to host this conversation. So thank you so much for your time and insights today.
Thank you so much, Neha. For me, I think this conversation was very, very nice. For me, HR has always been about creating that meaningful connections between people and purpose, I would say. And that's what kind of continues to drive me on my work every day. And that's what we did in the last 30 minutes that we spoke. It has just been around human connections and talking through things which are super important for us as individuals. So thank you for having me here. Thanks for your time.
Thank you so much, Lipika. It's a pleasure having you. Thank you.